Right, so welcome to the Ink in Thing podcast, where we explore the creative process and the great thinking behind some of the incredible works of art. My name is Kabelo Segeft Khang, and my guest today is a woman who wears so many hats, and all of them looks great on her. Her name is Thuli Nduvane. Face cut never declines. Hi, Thuli.
Hi, Gabriella.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the beautiful intro. I'm happy to be here.
You know what? You know what I've been doing actually to like try and prepare for our interview. I've actually been trying to watch Love Is Blind,
Okay.
and I can't get into it. It's like Games of Thrones. You know, first time I actually tried to watch Games of Thrones, it was so difficult to get into it. But eventually,
Yeah.
you know, I got into it.
Why Love is Blind? Because
Because
I'm
you were
always
so
talking about
passionate
it.
about it. Ever since this year began, you've been like talking about Love Is Blind, and I'm like, okay, I just want to understand Thuli's thinking outside her great work. Let me just like try and understand with it. What is this? What is the appeal well about it?
that is so sweet. First of all, I just love reality TV in general. Like the trashier, the better. The most unrefined, the better. I think it's really interesting to watch people go through social experiments, very unconventional ways to find love. It exposes, your flaws, the best parts about you. You're able to relate to people just being people on screen, you
Yeah.
know? So my love for reality TV runs so deep, from Real Housewives of Atlanta, all the Real Housewives, to every dating show. Also, when I was a kid, I would watch The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, things like that. So I think those things are just those very typical girly things that have been ingrained in me. So every season of Love Is Blind, I will watch and review every week.
What do you actually think of it like as they're actually trying to test a theory. That's what they're trying
Is
to
Love
do.
Blind?
Yeah. So far, what do you think? What do you make of it?
Look, I don't think Love Is Blind, and I don't think it should be. And I don't know what the obsession is with, trying to look beyond looks. Looks are important. They might not be the most important thing, but they are important, From across the room, I don't see your personality. I don't see your heart. I see your face. I see your body. And I want to be attracted to that. So, look, it's not an experiment that I would ever personally partake in. I don't think I would ever do a reality dating show in general. But especially Love Is Blind, people sell the best parts of themselves, and then you meet them, and they're not exactly what they sold.
Yeah. It's actually difficult to find love these days. I think we've actually got to a place where we have like complicated everything to a point where I'm a pessimist when it comes to matters of love,
Man.
But I love it for other people,
Just not for you.
Have to be careful with this one. I think there's so much work that I have to do to actually learn to love myself, which is a question that I wanted to ask you. It's actually the 5th of November today. We are actually left with a month before we go to 2025. So I wanted to know, what is it that you actually learned this year?
Oh, so much. So much. But I think if I were to break it down to kind of lessons I've learned this year, is that I can never lose betting on myself. I can only learn. Like, even when the outcome is not a win or it's not what I wanted, I'm always going to learn from that experience, and I'm always going to take from it. I can't lose if I'm putting all my money on myself. And that's what the tone of this year has been for me. I began this year freelancing for the first time, fully giving my plan A a full shot. Anybody who knows me knows I've been acting for years, but I will always have a side hustle. I'll always have a stable job, a 9 to 5 to pay my bills. And last year, I just felt a nudging from God to say, like, no, trust me with plan A. Take the leap.
Leap of faith. You actually got baptized. Well, what a way to end the year.
Yeah.
What does that mean for you?
Oh, man. It means recommitting. It means new life. It means just newness. And tapping into the fullness of the gift of the Holy Spirit, So, yeah. That, and I'm still navigating what it means every day. I'm kind of like, I still feel the same, but I'm supposed to be different, and I'm supposed to be moving different. So I think it's just this new chapter has just kind of felt like I've been walking so closely with the Holy Spirit, hearing the Holy Spirit so clearly. You know, something as small as when you have a worship song on your heart and you think it's just a song. You know, I've been learning in this new chapter to walk in that worship and what it's saying. You know, so for example, today it's we will make room for you to do whatever you want to. And that's how we opened today. When we opened in prayer, I was just like, I am fully aware that God just wants me to make room for him to do what he wants to. So speak through me, you know, fashion my interactions the way you want them to be fashioned, you know, have me move the way you want me to move. So just the awareness of walking with the Holy Spirit a lot deeper.
I was actually saying to you that ever since I've known you, you've always been this person who's like super confident. I'm just wondering, is it because you tap into that divinity, or is it because of something else? Where does that confidence come from? Because it's one of those things that I actually have been admiring about you from a distance, you know, watching you. I actually respect and love how that woman carries herself, you know. Where does that come from?
Oh, thank you. I think I'm just naturally a confident person. I'm a Sagittarius, so we are fire, we are passionate, although I'm not fully into that horoscope thing, but, you know, those textbook things that describe the personality of a Sagittarius. I'm that person. I think also I just come from a really good home. Like my family, you know, like has always made me believe that I'm capable of doing whatever it is that I want to do. I'm a firstborn, so I've always needed to lead. I've always needed to be the one who goes first. I have a lot of younger cousins as well. When we grew up like siblings, so I've always needed to be the one who goes first. I've always needed to be the one who leads. Even in school, I was always, you know, class captains and leaders. I was deputy head girl, and even in varsity in res, I was deputy vice chair. I was vice chair of my res. So I've always just been drawn to leadership positions. I'm not afraid to be in the center of the room. I'm not afraid to lead. You know, sometimes I land up in hot water saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, but it's just a natural spirit that I think God's given me. But I also think, like I was saying to you earlier, sometimes I just pretend, you know. I've not always been a confident person. I was bullied as a kid. I, you know, was not the one that the boys wanted all the time. I grew into myself. I wasn't always who I am now. But you pretend, you know. Don't let them see you cry. Don't let them see you sweat.
Yeah.
You know. So on the bad days, I still will perform.
Yeah. I have a great friend of mine. His name is Letabo. When we used to grow up, he used to say something ka Setswana. He used to say, "Maikutlo a latela kgetho." I don't know if.
No, none of that.
Maikutlo a latela kgetho. It basically means hore, most of the time your feelings are actually going to follow the decision that you make, you know. So there are different kind of people in life. So there are people who usually wait to be motivated before they can do something, you know. So him saying this was actually saying that he believes that you actually make a decision that, hey, I want to be confident, you know. So you make that decision of, I want to be confident, and eventually you start to feel confident because of you've actually made that decision. So that actually makes sense from what you were saying. So let's talk about you in the art. First of all, before I can get to understand your beginning, I want to know, why did you choose the arts? Because from all the characters and everything that you've played, you've actually embodied those roles well. And it actually says to me, actually about almost every artist, I almost have this feeling that these are the kind of people who could have been like literally anything in life, and they were going to make it, especially you know. So I want to know, why did you choose the arts?
I've, again, always been a loud and confident kid. I was always the kid pretending to be a YoTV presenter. We all were, you know. I was always the kid who wanted to be on stage doing something. At some point, I thought I could sing. I never could. I still can't. But there was just always something about me that just wanted to speak and wanted to be in the front, and wanted to be seen. And it developed from just being a confident kid who wanted to like talk and be a presenter into when I got into high school, I started doing drama in grade 10 as an elective subject. And man, I walked into that drama class and my life changed, and that was it. There was nothing else for me. I was never the kid who was good at maths or science or any kind of subject, but when I got to grade 10, I was like, this is my thing. This is what I've been waiting for. It just clicked. My drama teacher, shout out to Miss Wegley, she really just took me in and honed my craft and took me so seriously, and really took her time in helping me mold this talent. When I was in high school, my teachers would say to my mom at parents' evenings, she's too smart to be an actor. I know she wants to be an actor, but she's too smart for that. She should be a lawyer. She should be a businesswoman. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Because actors need to be smart. I need to be intellectual. I need to be intelligent. I need to be able to take other people's emotions on and know how to separate those from myself. I need to be able to watch people so intently that I know how to play those people. That's intelligence. That's not just vibes, So I walked into a drama class and everything changed for me. I don't even know what the why is. I do know what the why is. The why was advocacy. When I got into high school, being this loud kid, as I said, I was always the girl who stood in the gap for other people. I was always the girl who, oh no, sir, but she says it's unfair because of this. Or when they ask a question and somebody's whispering the answer, I'll say, oh no, sir, she says World War II. So I was always that person who, when people couldn't speak up for themselves, I spoke up for them. When people couldn't quite articulate themselves or like articulate what I'm feeling, I can stand in the gap and say, I think this is what you mean. And that just took on its own form. And I think when you're young, it can often be misconstrued with like wanting to be a lawyer because you're so, you love advocacy and you're so argumentative. And that just developed into me saying, I actually want to tell stories for people who can't tell their own. For some reason, God gave me a voice that I'm not afraid to use. And 85% of the time, it doesn't shake when I speak. So I think I kind of should take advantage of that. It was just always about wanting to tell stories that people can't tell for themselves.
Advocacy was actually the word that I was looking for because of ever since I got to watch your work, not only the ones that you do on the screen, especially the ones that you have done on theater, the ones that I knew Thuli had a pen here, always gave advocacy, especially It Takes Me When You Arrive, which is something that we have to speak about. But before we speak about that, some years ago I was listening to your radio tools and I sent you a text. And I was actually enjoying the person who was doing that show. I don't remember what radio was it. I think I was actually listening to something that I was listening, and then eventually I was like, okay, let me go and check something else. And then I found this woman with a warm voice. I was like, I didn't know Thuli was on radio, but if she is, that's where she belongs. How can we actually spoke about this before the show. Would you do a podcasting or broadcasting at some point in your life if you're given a chance?
Absolutely. Put me on radio. Anybody want to put me on radio? Put me on radio. I'm ready.
Yes,
I love to speak. I'm so passionate about conversation. Like, I live for conversation. My friends know this. Like, I'm just the girl who wants to talk about it. Let's unpack it. Let's talk about it. I absolutely would. Given the opportunity, I would. But also, wanting to create my own opportunities is something I've been wanting to do. But like I said, I'm not as brave as you are. But we're working on it. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a timeline, and I'm finally going to do the things I've been wanting to do. That fear thing, the thing where you think it's confidence 24/7 isn't, It's a lot of self-doubt. It's a lot of praying. It's a lot of convincing myself to take the leap. But I will eventually get there.
My biggest fear when it comes to creating these things, obviously, number one, for me, it was always the thing of... I don't know if I'm gonna be using the correct terminology here, but the miscarriages of ideas. I always feel like we conceive ideas in our head, and then we just put them there, waiting for them to grow, and then eventually you go and look for it. You know what I mean? And then it's gone. And then obviously, I've recently it has become difficult to create content because of, you'd have you'd question a lot of things. I'm actually speaking about you saying that I'm brave. I'm not. Actually going through thinking process of thinking, am I the one who should be doing this? This should be somebody else.
Yeah.
The idea is good, but it should be somebody else, not me. But it's like all the great people in the past. It's like, no, the bad end has been created for you. Until the time somebody picks it up, you're gonna have to be this person who's doing this. Can you talk about Text Me when you arrive, which people are going to be seeing in Cape Town very, very soon? I've actually seen the show so many times. It's very provocative,
to say the least.
Difficult to sit in.
Yeah.
I had to sit because I was like, these are my girls, I love them, but otherwise it was like, can you talk about the creative process behind it, and what was the reason? Obviously I know advocacy is going to be one of the reasons, but what is it that you guys were trying to achieve?
Advocacy was not even at the front of our minds when we made this. We were in our final year at the lab, and Aaliyah wanted to make a piece about GBV. She'd been making a series of work that year about GBV. And she'd come to me and said, let's do something for Open Class. Open Class is like a showcase for the students on Saturdays, I think like once a term, where they make their own work or even take scripted work and put it on stage. So it was our last one. We're about to graduate. We're like, yeah, sure, let's do something. And we hadn't met up to rehearse the entire week, and we need to show those pieces before they go on stage on Saturday. So it's a Friday afternoon. After lunch, we're kind of like, we need to make something. Sibahle, are you doing anything for Open Class? No, nothing. Okay, cool. Come, let's go, the three of us. We go to one of the rehearsal spaces, and we try to make something, and it's not coming together. And we start with like some linear story of this girl at a funeral, and we're like, she had a name. What was her name? And we're trying to make the story, and it's just not coming together. As you know, the process of devising is so difficult. And also, we need to show at a certain amount of time. Like, we've got an hour or two. I think we had 2 hours to show. And eventually we just sat down and we were just like, what did your mom used to tell you to like protect yourself from rape? My mom used to say this. When our mom said we must, dress up like this. And then, this happened, And we're living at the time. I remember at the time the trending like hashtag on Twitter was stay vigilant. And it was men telling women how to stay vigilant about getting raped. So make sure your phone is charged, ladies. Watch out if there's any strange men following you. Make sure you always have data to request your Uber in time. So I'm like, geez, like this vigilance is so interesting because it requires me to always have money and resources and, the wherewithal to protect myself. But nobody's talking about what you should be doing to not put me in danger. And so those two worlds just kind of come together, and we're just like, and Aaliyah had just seen a show where they were doing some step-by-step rule thing onto something, and she was like, oh my word, rules. And we got on the floor and we made, at that time, a 10-minute piece. It was 7 rules. And we were just like, the most ridiculous things. What else do they tell you? Just be kind and polite, because when you're in a taxi by yourself, you can't tell a taxi driver, but no, I don't want to sit next to you. No, I don't want to give you your number. Give you my number. So it just began with us telling our stories. It wasn't even about advocacy. In fact, when we showed the work to Vice was the one looking at our work that day. We were like, this is so dumb. This is so stupid. Like, who cares about our experiences of being on a taxi and trying to go to work? And oh my word, he's going to think it sucks so bad. What are we even saying? Oh my word, what's the point of the work? We don't know. We just think it's fun. And we performed the work, and the rest was history.
Yeah.
piece grew from that point on. Usis Momo came on board as our mentor. Later on, Snare was also on board as our director as well. For a while, they worked together. Now we're with Snare. It was just been such an incredible process of having both Snare and Momo feed into the work in ways that was so valuable. You know, Momo with her sketch comedy background and experience, and her just being a brilliant performer, and her being a woman, of course, was such a crucial time for her to hold the work at that infancy stage of it, you know, because no one could really get it fully as she would, as a theater maker and as somebody who lives these experiences and as somebody who dabbles in this genre of theater so often, you know. So having her in the room was magic, you know. Snare being somebody who was really our big brother and mentor in the space in all of the time we were at the lab, it was a no-brainer to work with Snare because he understands body, he understands movement, he understands playing, you know, and that kind of style, that kind of like, that classic protest physical theater style is Snare's specialty. And we wanted the piece to feel like a Waza Albert of some sort. We wanted it to feel poor. We wanted it to feel just so intense and that, you know, clear and specific and precise, you know. So that collaboration was really a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Talk about the satire, because of it's a heavy text. Where did the idea of using satire come from? Because I don't think Uguti, it made the message less important, you know, but it just made it more palatable. But the message was still clear. So how did the decision come about? Like it could have been like something very, 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 very heavy with drama instead of satire. So how did that decision come about?
I think, like I said, when we started the process and started making this play about a funeral, and it was a linear story, it was so dramatic, and we were like, oh, how many stories have we seen like this? Like, we've seen so many stories about rape that make us cry or that beg us to cry as the audience. You know, the honest truth is, like, when you encounter a story like about rape or about GBV, I think as a woman and as a man, it might land differently, you know. And I think in my experience, there is such a tenderness, but a hardness as well, because that thing is so big. It is such a huge life event that you're so aware of how the performers and the creators are handling that moment. You know, you become withdrawn as well because you don't fully want to dive into that and trigger yourself. And so there's all these defenses that route creates in an audience, you know. If you're preaching, you know, if you're saying, men are raping us, stop raping us, who's listening to that?
Yeah.
You know? Also, if it's gruesome and it's so close to reality, I'm triggered, and now I don't want to be in the room anymore. And now it's bringing up all these memories. Satire wasn't even a conversation we had. We're just funny girls who live our lives the way that we live them. Of course. And we take in our experiences the way that we have. And so it was also one of those things where, like, if we don't laugh, we will weep. And we just wanted the story to be accessible. We did not want to alienate the audience, particularly men, because the show is for men.
Yeah.
The show is for everybody, but it's for men.
Yeah.
Right? And we know standing on stage and preaching to men about how they must stop and change their ways and stop raping us is not a way that they're going to listen.
Yeah.
So like our classic texts of Waza Albert that were dealing with really heavy topics at the time, reeling us in and bringing us in with the humor, and at the end going, yo, but we're not free. Yo, but we need help back home. Hey, but we're oppressed at home. That is the feel that we wanted.
The part where you guys decide to break the fourth wall, and then you decide to give those gentlemen gifts, it was very, 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 very beautiful for me, because I was like, this is giving, we are in this together. You know, we are still figuring a way out of this together, because I think most of the time as men, you know, my problem with other things when I hear such things, it's I get the feeling that men sometimes are treated as if they are just what's the word? They are not actually part part of the society, because I feel like what we are today is actually because of the society, not me excusing their actions, but I'm just saying, Guti, everything that's happening here, it's part of something, that was built at some point. At some point, somebody thought, okay, this is patriarchal way, it's going to work. Let's see how it goes. And eventually, it had some flaws, Can you talk about that moment where you guys decided to break the fourth wall? How did that process come about?
I don't even remember how we made that decision, but probably from their brilliant minds. Theatre, as much as it is live and can confront you in the moment, there is still a veil of safety over the audience. There is still a veil of safety and protection where men can say, oh, that's bad, but not me. Sure, those men who do that, not me. Which is why it was important for us to have rules in the play that don't just speak to this monster of a man who abuses and hits his children and wives. No, we're talking to the everyday man. We're talking about the man who catcalls you, who looks at you lustfully, who won't let you leave, who wants to buy you a drink, who's insistent on buying you a drink. The husband who expects you to be a superwoman. He doesn't put his hands on you. He's not abusive. The man who goes away on the weekend and doesn't come back all weekend, but you must be grateful that he's here and being a father. The man who barely provides for his children when he's got the ability to. So that moment of the play is kind of us just going, nobody's safe. Yes, we're talking to you. Yes, you, Kabelo, in your white t-shirt.
Yeah.
You can't exclude yourself from this conversation. And we've had a lot of mixed reviews on that. We've had a lot of people be like, oh, that's so unnecessary. Oh, it's so uncomfortable. The truth is, so is my existence.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. If I have to be uncomfortable, so do you.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful piece, creative wise, and the message. Of course, I'm part of the men that are still actually learning. I'm still part of the men who are still trying to hold themselves accountable, and I think it'll take a little bit of time. Unfortunately for us men, we still have that time and grace. On the other side, women, it's something that has to change immediately. What are some of the reaction that actually surprised you?
Oh, we've had so many reactions. One of our first kind of audience responses in our first time of performing it was the discomfort of laughing. Men laughing and women going, why are you laughing? I can laugh at this. You can't laugh at this.
Yeah.
We've had disrespectful amounts of cackling, laughter, we're just joking, this is just a joke. We've had dead silent audiences who just have nothing to say. We've had women walk out of the show because it's triggering, As much as we can put a trigger warning on it and we can, play off the satire and play off the comedy, it is still a hard-hitting piece. My favorite audience response, and I talk about it all the time, one of our friends in the space had come to us, it was earlier this year, and he says, I've seen the show so many times, but there was something about tonight's performance that prompted me to pick up the phone and call my ex-girlfriend and apologize. I'd never have been abusive to her physically, but I know that there were lots of things I did that were less than stellar towards her. And I just felt the need to pick up the phone and say, you know what? I didn't get it then, I get it now, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think that's always the most impactful way that you want this show to sit. You want people to leave the theatre wanting to be different.
I love that. I think I've actually sat through a number of these performances myself, and those reactions that you speak about, some of them I've actually witnessed them, But one that sometimes bothers me, it's us men with the thing of whataboutism, because I think to actually try and paint the picture, us men watching the production, it's sort of like when white people are actually watching a production about slavery.
Yeah.
Of course we're gonna watch it with the thing of, but what about our struggle?
Yes.
I mean, the only time you get to see All Lives Matter, it's when there's a Black Lives Matter thing.
Yes.
So I think what I get from us is that there's a sort of envy from us men, because of we are struggling and battling with our own things. But what women have done is that they have like owned up their stories, and like, this is our stories, you know, and we don't have the guts to do that, you know. So when we see women doing that, we become like envious, and we want to seize fag and be like, but what about us? Also, we are being accused of rape, you know. But I'm like, this is a time where you should be listening to what are they saying, you know. You should create a platform where you speak about
100%.
you know, because that's the only way we can have these conversations. Because of, at the end of the day, we can't go anywhere. When you try to speak about men, some women are going to come and be like, yeah, but what about, you know. So thank you so much for that production tools.
Thank you for that analogy as well. I always use that analogy. It's like men understand oppression when it comes to race. Black men in particular.
Yeah.
Understand oppression when it comes to race and them being oppressed by white people, but they will never understand it in the way that they oppress us.
Yeah.
For some reason, it is only a valid form of oppression if it affects you. You know, it's the thing that we do when we say, but Kabelo, imagine if she was your sister. Imagine if that was your mother. Why must you imagine that it's somebody so close to you for you to care?
She doesn't have to.
Why must it directly affect you for you to have any kind of compassion towards someone's life? You know, and I think that's the difference. You know, I think in this conversation is like, it's so wild that black men understand oppression when it affects them and refuse to understand it when we say, okay, but you're doing the exact same thing. When you go to the office and you are belittled and you're shut down in that boardroom, you come home and you do that same thing to me. And I agree. I think it's all part of a bigger system. It's all part of something that is beyond us and beyond even the men who are the perpetrators. But it is something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
It is something we need to unpack. We've had men have an issue with the fact that we use satire. Because how dare you laugh? How dare you make fun? And the thing is, you can't oppress me and then abuse me and then tell me how to deal with that abuse.
Yeah.
You can't tell me to live a certain way, be a certain way, and then abuse me and chop my body up and put it in a trash bag. And put that trash bag in a pick it up dustbin. And when we say men are trash, not knowing that we are responding, it is a direct response to you saying, that woman that you chopped up and put in a pick it up dustbin, she was trash to you. Instead of dealing with the issue and talking about the actual thing that got us here, it's the defense.
Yeah.
It's the how dare you, you know? So there's so many conversations that need to be had, and I will certainly not be told by anyone how to deal with my oppression.
Well, happy that people in Cape Town are going to get to witness. Is this your first time going? That's
our first time in Cape Town, yeah.
Awesome, you break legs.
Thank you.
Because of time, I want us to talk about LLB. I actually enjoyed watching you on Melodi.
Okay.
It was beautiful. Seeing you playing a banker, from you playing a lawyer. How's it being playing what's your character's name? Lwazi, ne?
Lwazi, yes.
Yeah, how's it being? I enjoy her so much. She's super different from you.
Yeah. Very similar, but also very different from me.
Yeah.
LLB was an incredible experience. It was my biggest TV experience thus far. To many, many more to come.
Yes.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I the only challenge I think I encountered with Lwazi is I just didn't want to come on screen and play a stereotype. You know, we are typecast. I think bigger girls as well. We are typecast on these, television and film platforms. I recognize that for a great amount of my career, I'll probably play the best friend, which I did in Lobola Man and I did in LLB, the best friend of the lead. She's always the second in command. She's always, the one who can't find love. She's always the sassy one who loves to gossip. She's loud. She's bubbly. She's one color. She does nothing else but do this the whole time, So when we started with LLB, I was very intentional with our performance coach that I do not want to play that. I do not want to be that girl. So little things like minimizing using words like chomi, friend at the office, and having a clear distinction with how Lwazi speaks in the office and how she speaks to a friend at home, So yeah, there was just a lot that I was very conscious of in my performance to not throw me into that stereotype category.
Yeah.
But it was incredible. I had so much freedom to play. I had so much freedom to mold Lwazi. And what I offered to Lwazi was accepted and loved. So it was an incredible experience.
I'm here to see Lobola, man. But on Melodi, you got to play the lead. You know, it was actually named after you. Speaking of that, because I know it's actually going to be a longer conversation and we don't have time. Who's actually responsible for this stereotypical casting?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I think it's just the beauty standard. I think, it's cute to be curvaceous in a socially acceptable way, right? So, for example, certain silhouettes and certain body shapes are more desirable than others. I think TV also just wants to put the desirable girl in the front of the cast. That's the girl you want to be like. You don't want to be like the chubby girl. You want to be like that girl, My very first agent that I ever signed with straight after graduating said to me, I was 22 at the time, and she said, "You will never play a 20-something-year-old girl, not in that body. You're always going to get the older roles. You're going to get the mama roles, the Shabin queens. Don't get offended. That's just, because, you just don't look 22. And I'm like, but I am 22. I can show you my ID, and I think, I don't know what it is, because like if you step out this room and you look at 22-year-olds and what they look like, or even kids on campuses and varsity, or even girls in high school, we are fully figured. We are not one shade. We are not all skinny minis, and if TV's job is to reflect society or mirror society, what society are you mirroring? I don't know who's responsible for it, but every day we work towards breaking that ceiling.
Yeah.
Because we were meant to be leads. We are craftsmen. We are actors. We are gifted. We are talented. We are skilled, and should not be limited to what I look like I can play.
Well, with people of your caliber in the industry, I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years we are actually going to see changes, and I'd actually proudly tell my children one day, like, yeah, that's actually the career to follow. There are these women that actually fought for 1, 2, 3. Thuli, it was actually a pleasure, luxurious moment to have this conversation with you. Huge fan of you. What's next for you?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again. What's next? Cape Town. So we'll be in Cape Town from next week at the Baxter Theatre. We'll be there from the 12th to the 17th of November. Please, if you're in Cape Town, I don't know what my camera is, but if you're in Cape Town, come through to the Baxter Theatre. Hopefully, Gabelo can leave the link to tickets in the description box so you guys can book your tickets. From the 12th to the 17th, there are student prices, there are block booking prices. Come and see this amazing work. And then after that is whoever will cast me. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And this was the Ink and Thing podcast. You can subscribe, you can share, you can do all the things that you can do to give us the love and support. This was Thuli Nduvane signing out.